My Nana brother selling her stuff behind her back and pocketing the money. Let me explain. Fall of 2011 also. I put D1 and D2 for both of their names started with a D and also privacy reasons. Me and my family, my mom, my sister, and my brothers, were moving out of our small-town home and into my later found-out abusive stepfather house. The house that we lived in belonged to my grandma and grandpa who had bought their house in the early 1940s to build their family. They had two sons, D1 and D2. D1, who was born in 1940, and D2 was born in 1942. My Nana would later be born in 1947. The house they and we, me and my mom and my siblings, lived in was built. In the late 1890s or early 1900s, the house was also my Nana's and her brother's childhood and teenhood house. My Nana also lived in a newer built house right next to my grandma and grandpa house to stay close, and also when she had my mom in the late 60s, but I'm getting off track. My Nana worked as a nurse between the late 60s up until the late 80s. She had to retire due to health reasons. Now my Nana, in the words my mom, her daughter, oh, my mom was bougie as fuck. She worked at a correction facility in her state prison. She made a lot of money working as a nurse. In the late 60s, the 1970s, and the 1980s, she had fur coats, fur hats, gloves that were trimmed with fur, and had multiple expansive dresses and expensive clothing. Not only that, but she still had her prom dresses back when she was in high school in the early 60s, and they were not cheap. And as well as her nurse's training uniform back when she was at nursing school in 1966. Back to 2011, me and my family were moving out. My Nana had her furs and expensive clothing at her parents' old house because the closet in her and her mom apartment were small as hell. So she kept her stuff at her parents' old house for safekeeping. On the day we left, my Nana had asked one of her brother D2 to pack the stuff that was in one of the bedroom closet and have it delivered to her and her mom apartment because on that day, she a doctor appointment about a transplant she had in the early 2000s and seeing its progress. Since the transplant was experimental or rare, I don't remember which one. But on that day, she was going to be gone for the entire day. Her brother, out of laziness and greed, sold everything that was left in that house that we didn't take. Not just Nana stuff, but as well as all the furniture in the house, and pocket the money and didn't tell anyone until a week later. To say, my Nana was pissed would be an understatement. She was furious that the stuff that she not only worked her butt off for 10 to 20 years was sold behind her back, but as well as furniture that had been inside that house since my Nana and her brothers were kids in the 1950s, but as well as furniture which had been inside the family since my grandma was a kid in the 1920s or older. My grandma didn't speak to him for a week but had to stop talking to him, but she was disappointed at her son. Actions, my Nana, secretly, held a grudge against her brother up until the day she died. She never forgave him and still hated him for what he did years ago. And honestly, I don't blame her.